They tried to release me the next day, but I got so emotional. I started to like kind of cry a little bit, just a tad, and they let me stay another day. But they didn't have her on the monitor 24/7 anymore. They just kind of kept coming back and putting her on the monitor, and then yeah, eventually they released me. They asked me if I was comfortable. I was comfortable. I mean, I couldn't just stay there forever. And then I actually, let me tell you guys, now we're getting into the actual labor part. But real quick, I did have contractions every day until the day I gave birth. But let me tell you guys the difference between those contractions and the day that I was actually in labor and I knew it. Listen to your intuition. So what happened was, it was Sunday morning. I got up, got ready for church. I remember, I'm gonna insert a picture. Pretty sure I've been inserting pictures the entire time, but I'm gonna insert a picture. I had like a little black dress on. I did my hair, these 2 little braids, and I went to church. Now when I got to church, I started feeling this immense amount of pressure. Immense, like it was really bad, really strong. I was like holding my belly up while I was walking because it felt like she was going to fly out of there. I felt like she was about to fly out of my, you know what. And so I couldn't sit still because it was just too much pain, and everybody thought I was like just having Braxton Hicks again. Knowing that I was in preterm labor, everybody was still telling me it was Braxton Hicks, and it really wasn't. I was in actual labor. This is how I knew. The immense amount of pressure mixed with the contractions, mixed with the back pain that was worse than before. And it lasted, I forced myself to sit through the entire service because everybody was telling me that I was crazy. This is why I say listen to your intuition. And so I sat through it, and the whole service, 2 hours later, the contractions were still there. It was not going away, it was just staying there. And I just felt like she was gonna fly out. I was very, very uncomfortable, but I'm really good with pain, so I was able to sit through it. I ended up leaving. I drove my mom's car. I went and got some Chinese food. I was hungry, and then I dropped off my best friend, and then I went home. But you know, when you have contractions, you feel like you have to use the bathroom, so I went to sit on the toilet, but something told me to wipe my panty. I had a pink underwear, and so it wasn't like a lot of blood. So when I wiped, I saw the tiniest amount of blood, and I wiped myself again just to make sure, and there it was. I was literally like spotting. So I called my mom. My mom was telling me that I was having Braxton Hicks. I was like, look, I'm actually spotting. So I ended up going to hospital. Thankfully, listening to my intuition, I had my hospital bag packed for preterm labor and also active labor. Anyway, I ended up going to labor and delivery. I let them know, but they were taking their sweet time. They really didn't think so. This is per usual. This is a usual thing that labor and delivery triage always does. Like, I hear this from many women, that they just take their time. They don't think you're in actual labor. Hence why I had to go into emergency C-section. Anyway, I had eaten a few fries, so this is very important. Remember that. So then they hook me up to the monitor. They see that I'm having really strong contractions, back to back to back to back to back. They're very close. They're very close. I remember in preterm labor, mine were 5 minutes apart, and then they went to 3 minutes apart. But then I wasn't dilating, which is why they released me. I forgot to say that. But this time I had dilated. So they checked my dilation because they gave me IVs again. It wasn't taking away the contractions like they thought it would. So they checked my dilation. I was 2 to 3 centimeters, and I think 90% effaced. So I knew that I was in labor when they brought in the sonogram right away. They checked her position, which I already knew she was head up, which is why I got a C-section. Didn't get a C-section for any medical reasons or anything like that. It was simply because she wasn't in position and where she needed to be. And so I definitely made sure to ask them if I do have another baby, will I be able to push? Because I've always heard that if you have a C-section, you will never be able to give birth normally. But they told me that that's usually when you have medical reasons as to why you had a C-section. But if it's just about position, then if next baby is in position, you can push. Just to educate other moms, because I didn't know that myself. But yes, she was head first. And they kept just monitoring my contractions. They told me that they were waiting because I had eaten like an hour prior, and so I couldn't just go into the C-section. They tried their best to wait as long as they could, but then they just kind of had to rush me in there because she was putting a lot of pressure. Excuse me. She was putting a lot of pressure, and they were scared they were either going to see a leg or her butt coming out. So they just had to rush me into the C-section. They couldn't wait any longer because she was pushing down. My contractions were making her, you know what I mean? But she wasn't in a position. If she was, I would have been able to push her out normally. So I ended up going into the room. I was very scared. They did the epidural, which it hurts, but it wasn't. I think that since I heard such horror stories, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. The only thing that I say, I really did panic because feeling your legs numb and not being able to move them is very, very scary. I was trying to move them and I couldn't. I started panicking, but I was self-talking to myself, you know. So let's talk about the C-section experience. You don't feel it, but you definitely feel them pulling, okay? And don't let this scare you, because honestly, as soon as I saw my baby, not forgot, because people say you forget everything. No, I didn't forget, but I felt relief and I didn't care what happened after that. Like, she was okay, everything was okay. But I just will never forget them saying, we see her butt, we see this, and then they just pulled the curtain down and I was able to see her for the first time, and I just felt something different in me. I've always heard moms say that, but that is so true. You feel something different in you. From that point forward, they started the process of, I guess, taking out everything that they have to take out and all that stuff, and I started feeling very, very woozy. I think it's because I went in like shivering, shaking. I had the shakes, and they had to put like a warm thing around me, so maybe it was like too warm already for my body. And I started getting like very flushed. I started feeling very woozy. I was getting a little scared, but I didn't have the energy to get scared. I kind of was just like, ugh. And they quickly started taking off all the stuff that was warming me up so that I can go back to normal. Eventually I did, but then I started having the shakes again. And yeah, they closed me up. I went into the room, and for like 2 hours I had the shakes, so they had a full body warm thing on me, and I was starving, you guys. I hadn't ate all day and I was starving. My C-section was at about, I think, yeah, 9 p.m. and I was trying to eat, okay? And they were like, you can't even drink water, like. So they gave me like the tiniest amount of water, and I was getting really angry, really angry. So they just started giving me water. Another nurse gave me juice. And baby girl did go into the NICU because I gave birth at 35 weeks, which is insane. It's crazy. I gave birth at 35 weeks, so she ended up going into the NICU. She could breathe, she could eat, she just couldn't eat fully on her own, so she had a feeding tube. By 3 a.m, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I got up. They put me in a wheelchair because obviously, like, I was still freshly C-section, but they put me in a wheelchair. I got up on my own, sat in the wheelchair by myself, and I went to NICU. I was going to NICU about 2 to 3 times a day. I was in the hospital, I think, for 4 days at that point. And I was going to NICU back and forth. I would say that the healing process is kind of hell. They give you Tylenol and ibuprofen mixed together, but they do also give you Oxy. I don't like that kind of stuff because I know that it's very addictive, so I was very scared to take it. But it was 2 times that I really started feeling super bad. Like, I was really out of it because the pain was so bad. Like, I would walk bent over to the NICU every single day, and I was also pumping. I was an oversupplier, so when you're pumping, you feel the contractions in your stomach, and it didn't help with the C-section. So I gave in and I took the lowest amount of Oxy 2 times, and it just knocked me out. I don't like that feeling. I don't like being drowsy. I never did. So yeah, they actually sent me home with Oxy, and I just never took it again. Like, I just healed on my own. But here comes the crazy part. So I ended up leaving at 4 days. It was very emotional, very terrible for me because she was in the NICU still. And then I noticed in my packaging I had blood all around the packaging. I'm gonna insert a picture, and I was like, I think this is a sign that I need to go to the hospital, because it was hurting really bad, but I thought that was part of the healing process, but it actually wasn't. I ended up in the hospital. I showed them how it looked in my appointment, because I ended up going for my appointment, and I showed them how the packaging looked, and they sent me straight to the ER, where they had to perform the procedure of reopening me, you guys. They only numbed like a little part, and let me tell you guys, I never want to do that again. It was worth it for her, like giving birth and everything, but I never want to do that again. So what ended up actually happening to me was that there was a lot of blood trapped under my skin, and so they had to reopen my incision to drain out all the blood that was there. And so I was in a bed, and the whole entire bed was flooded with my blood, and it was disgusting. It was not a great feeling. It was terrible. It was very traumatizing. And from that point on, guess what, you guys, they didn't close me. They left me open, and they put a bunch of packaging just inside, and I had to come in every single day after that they had to take out, mind you, they didn't numb me for this. They would take out the packaging, put in new packaging every day. There was one point where I went in and I had dead tissue, and they had to scrape it off. Never want to do that again. Never. Ever. At one point, I just kind of stopped going because I was really terrified. And they eventually saw that I really didn't want to come back, so they gave me the packaging myself. But by the time I would do it, it was kind of closing already, and now it is closed, but it is still red, and it still hurts most of the time. But it's completely closed now, and it's just a long little line, but it's not like all the way from waist to waist, like to hip. It's more like just like in the middle, and you could cover it up with an underwear, which I am so glad. And then throughout that whole healing process, my baby was still in the NICU, and then she ended up leaving a week and a few days after, because she had to hit a goal weight. She was born 3 pounds, so that was one of the reasons I was high risk. She wasn't growing in my stomach. She was 3 pounds when she was born, and she had to hit a certain pound. They say 5, but I think she hit 4 pounds, and they let her go because she was doing really well, and she hit it overnight, whereas it was supposed to take a week. She did it overnight, so they let her go, and I was super excited. And that is the labor and delivery story. I know that I left out the part where I would go in 2 times a week after I went into preterm labor. I forgot about that part. After I went into preterm labor, I would go 2 times a week, and I did have a C-section scheduled for April 16, but she was actually born April 6th. So still earlier than what they wanted. They had it scheduled for my 37th week, and I was about to be 36 weeks when she was born, just a few days shy of it. And so now she is here in the house. It's been 2 months. She is sleeping. She's knocked out right now, so I don't want to wake her up. Never wake up a sleeping baby. That is true. Never do it. So if you are having a C-section, don't be scared. I say I wouldn't want to do it again simply because what happened after, but the C-section in itself wasn't that bad. The healing, you just gotta be careful, be very careful. But other than that, and make sure you have help. But other than that, I'm like a person that I'm a little hard-headed, and I didn't want no one to help me. I would walk more than I was supposed to and all that stuff. But it's not that bad, and it's more controlled. I feel like I feel like a C-section is more controlled, whereas when you deliver vaginally, it's very, very scary because there's a lot of things that can happen. And I'm kind of glad I had a C-section. Is that crazy to say? I might be crazy to say it, but I feel like it was more controlled. It was boom, get cut open, take out the baby, and close you up, and then just heal. Healing is terrible from a C-section, but it's not impossible. And it never stops hurting, as I've heard, and it still hurts at times. But it's only been 8 weeks, so let's see how we keep going with it. And I thank you guys so much for listening to my story. If you are a mom to be that is scared of having a C-section, I'm here to tell you, don't be so scared. It's not that bad, and when you see your baby, you're not going to care about anything. If you had a C-section or even a vaginal birth and you had like a traumatic story, let me know in the comments. Like, I want to hear all these stories. I want to know. I want to know. And if you are a mom to be, I just want to say congratulations, or a new mom, congratulations. We are all in this together. You're not alone in how you feel. I'm wanting to share how postpartum actually feels. I'm a little late in the game because I'm 8 weeks into recording it for you guys, but that's okay. It's never too late. Postpartum is still going. And another thing is, I had tested positive for preeclampsia. Don't be scared. You'll be okay. I'm okay. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys subscribe and like, turn on the bell so you can be notified every single time I post. I will be posting a lot about motherhood, postpartum, all those things. Just remember that you're not alone. And I hope to see you in the next video, following along the journey. And let me know if you're either a new mom or an expecting mom. I would love to hear. And follow the Instagram. I like to keep up with my moms. I made a TikTok and I keep up with the moms that I've met there. I absolutely adore every single one of the moms that I've met, and I keep up with all of them. So let me know if you're an expecting mom or a new mom, and I just love it. So follow the Instagram, and I will see you in the next video. God bless you guys, and peace.